I'm Bart Janssens, and I'm the country manager for Acer for the Benelux region, and already work for this beautiful company for almost 15 years. I think if you go back up to 3 years back, roughly, it was mainly Microsoft Windows, and in some cases some Apple-dominated, let's say, operating system. So I think mainly in the past few years you see a development towards more operating systems, where for sure Chrome is by far the biggest growing segment. But I think also if you look more to the traditional CPU brands, it was only Intel and AMD, and now you see that some other vendors like MediaTek or Snapdragon and etc. are also gaining share. So I would mainly see it's the old traditions start to change. That's mainly the biggest difference compared to, let's say, the 10 years before that. I think one of the biggest changes you see now is that more and more companies go to a more mobile solution. I think also with the current work from home situation that we see in 2020 due to COVID, there's a rapidly increasing need for more mobile solutions. And within that, say, let's set that trend that if companies already decide to change their old setup, I think more and more companies are looking at alternatives, like for example Chrome OS. You know, the easy way of saying, and let's say there's more than one thing, but I think the easiest way to explain is where I said I think that the more traditional solutions are more, the product is linked to the user, where I think in Chrome OS it's mainly you as a user are, let's say, linked to Chrome OS, and the device that you use basically doesn't matter. You can log in your Chrome account or in your Google account, no matter if you are using a Chromebook, a Chromebox, or a Chrome base. So it's more like, yeah, your login credentials are basically, that's you, instead of your device is you, where you see that more in the offline mode that we've seen in the past. It was really like you had your own laptop, and if that one was lost or you forgot it or something went wrong, you really had an issue because you can't continue working. And with Chrome, it's basically log into a new device and continue your work. Most mandatory thing for Chrome OS, let's say the holy grail, is safety. So it needs to be secure. Within that environment, for sure, you have the possibility to use Chrome OS. That's basically a free OS, or do an upgrade to the Chrome Enterprise environment. And for sure, using the upgrade to the Chrome Enterprise environments also give you some additional, let's say, features like where's the data stored and etc., which for a lot of companies is an important thing to know. Basically, you can say that they are always running two versions of your OS at the same time. Basically, in the background you can get some updates where you will not even notice because you are working basically in the second layer. If something might happen, so basically if you might get an attack, which is not, let's say, in 99.999% of the cases, it will not even manage to do some kind of damage. Basically, the operating system also has the possibility to say like, okay, I capture it, I fully remove that part of the OS and continue in basically the second OS that is running, without you even noticing that something would happen in the background. So you have the TPM chip that makes sure that you have let's say the security chip, but also within the OS itself there are several layers of security. So basically it makes it a super safe OS. Basically part of the OS. So I think the actual data is 99 dot. A lot of 9% of the cases they are able to prevent anything from happening. So security is key within the OS. Everything is basically within any management console that you have within the Chrome enterprise environment, and basically all the secure settings are basically done. So it's a super easy rollout, and also super easy to maintain. So you can within the portal also get updates about the individual systems that are in the domain to see if something potentially could have happened with the device and etc. So from an IT point of view, it's super easy to maintain, which for a company is also important. If you look at the total cost of ownership, that is one of the reasons why Chrome is I think picking up rapidly in market share, because it's super easy to maintain. So the total cost of working in a Chrome OS environment is a very interesting topic for companies. It depends a bit per segment. For sure, it all started basically in education, in K-12, so let's say primary schools, where it was mainly focused on Chromebooks were quite cheap and easy to use. I think if you look in for example, government-related situations, it's a lot related to data. They are very scared that data would be on a hard drive, notebooks get stolen, and information could be on the streets. So they choose it clearly for, let's say, security reasons. If I look in many healthcare organizations that we already supplied with Chrome devices, it's also about the shareability of devices in many cases. Like I said earlier, basically multiple employees can use the same Chromebook, because when you log in, you only see the data that is available for you. So the setup that is done by the company, the level of information that you are allowed to see. Where you hand over your Chromebook to one of your colleagues, they log in with their credentials and they can use the same device. So there you see that people that work in shifts, instead of purchasing a device for every employee, it's basically buying one device and 3 people in a shift can relate with the device. So there you see it's more like shareability and cost reduction, because you might need less Chromebooks for the amount of people that you employ. And third of all, I think cost related. So the total cost of ownership is lower compared to some other solutions. So it can also be a cost decision. It's also the maintenance. It's also the fact that you have a lower cost of the IT operation in general. So instead of maybe having 10 people to maintain those 1,000 units, you basically need 1 to maintain 1,000 units. So it's also the cost is not only that a Chromebook is cheaper. It's the total solution that is. From a financial point of view, an interesting decision for many companies. But it's very important that you get informed about the change that you are going to make. Which kind of applications do you use? What is the situation, the current situation? Do you have a lot of on-premise data? Is it a lot of information that is already in the cloud? So it's very important that you go to a reseller that really knows about Chrome OS in general before you take any steps, because in the end, you don't want downtime, you don't want issues with the programs that you are running. So my main tip would be make sure that you are informed in the right way about the decision that you are going to take to change platform. because again, it's not about purchasing a Chromebook. I think purchasing Chrome devices is basically the second step. First, you want to see, like with my current inventory of other devices, you want to make the transition to a Chrome ecosystem. And then at the time that you want to replenish your hardware, that's the second step. So I would say make sure you are informed. And then I'm quite sure that there are so many different platforms and products with Chrome OS. No matter if you want to have a big all-in-one system that we call a Chrome base, or you want to have a Chromebook or a Chromebox with a standalone TFT panel. There are so many possibilities from a hardware point of view, but it all starts with what do we need to do as a company to be, let's say, to make sure that we can make the transition to a different platform. It's quite often just learning yourself a different way of working. Like instead of emailing each other a lot of documents, it's basically you all work in the same document. But if you work for a company, and let's say that I'm a bit older guy and I worked already for 20 years in my standalone Excel sheet and email it to my colleague, and then he made some adjustments, but I'm still working in version 1 and he's already in version 2, and in the end we draw the conclusion that we all made some changes and it ends up in disaster. But that is what you've done for 20 years. Where in Chrome, you are really working in one document at the same time. You can see that your colleague is editing something, and you can see the changes that they made, and etc. So it's a complete different way of, and a modern way of working that can save you a lot of time and a lot of errors. But it's a cultural change. So I think it's also important that within an organization, you ask yourself the question, okay, are we able to be more modern and change our way of working? And that's more a mindset thing. But if you want to make a change, it's super important that everybody is aligned and willing to go for, let's say, how do I do my work 2.0?